And then in April of this year, I got a text message from my brother. And the only 2 words that it said were, "It's time." I guess that's 3 words. I don't want to get caught in that one. It's time. That's what it said. And then he said in the next message a few minutes later, "Let's meet." And I said, "Oh boy, this is going to be a tough one." I called Bishop and I said, "Bishop, I don't know what's going to happen. My brother's pretty angry. He's angry at everybody. He's angry at me. He's angry at my parents. What's going to happen?" I made plans to meet with him at a diner. Figured, okay, at least we'll meet in a public place. I don't know what he's going to say to me. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he thinks I'm sick again. I don't know. I went through every scenario with Bishop. And after we talked through all the practical elements of what this meeting could turn out to be, Bishop said, "But we're going to believe for the best, and we're going to pray." And that's just what we did. And so that night, I went to the diner in Hamden, and I walked in, and my brother was sitting all the way down the end at a booth. And I hadn't seen him in many years. He had a giant white beard and long hair. And I sat down and we made small talk about COVID for a little bit. And one other element that's important to mention is I never knew my brother to be a spiritual person. So telling him, "Hey, I'm a minister at my church," that's not going to be the first topic that I bring up. Okay, just is not going to be. We're going to talk about the events of the day. We're going to talk about small talk, and that's exactly what we did. We talked about COVID and, feeling each other out. How do you feel about all this? And then he said something to me that's hard to convey. He said, "I've been going to church, and I've been hearing a message that I've heard before, but this time it's different." And he said, "I don't really know how to convey this, and it sounds a little bit weird that I'm even saying it this way." In so many words, he was saying, "This sounds funny to say, but I don't know how else to say it. But I think God is speaking to me, and I think God is telling me that I need to fix my family." And after I got done picking my jaw up off the table, I thought, oh my God, is this really happening? And then for the next 90 minutes, my brother poured out his heart. And he apologized to me and I to him and talked about what his perspective was of the things that he had said and done over the years. And then he said to me, "If Jesus can forgive me for all of that, who am I that I can't forgive my family?" My brother messages me every single day since that night, and we talk every single day. We got a lot of work to do, but let me tell you. I walked outside that night. Minister Manny has a picture. And we took a selfie in the parking lot. There we were after 13 years. And then just about a month or so after that, he went and he spoke to my mother. And there they are. After many, many years of brokenness. And on that very day was the first time we all went out to dinner as a family. And my daughter, who's 7, got to see and meet her cousins, who are now 13 and 15. And there's a third cousin who's 9. And I can't barely describe to you how dramatic that night was at the diner for me. Because when I tell you it was impossible, it was impossible. I stopped praying for that. I'll be right honest with you. I'd be lying to you if I told you that I just kept the faith that someday this was going to happen. I didn't. But you know what? That didn't seem to matter for God. Because whether or not I believed it, that was the truth. Because God has the power to restore. God has the power to speak into the hardest of hearts. You know, we talk about these things, we say he breathed on dry bones and they came to life. I mean, is there not more dramatic transformation than that? What is it that you're dealing with in your family right now? What is it that you're dealing with your coworkers or with your children? Is it impossible? What is that impossible mountain? Go back and watch the worship now after me saying this to you. Go see how the moving of mountains and God being the truth was infused into worship. And we didn't have a conversation about that. Minister Jason, I'm here to tell you today through this testimony. And I asked my brother, do you mind if I share some of these details? And he said, it's the truth. Go for it. It is the truth. You know, one of the times we were hanging out afterwards and spending time together, I found out later that when he had told me he'd been going to church, I guess he wasn't quite sure what it was called, but it turns out he was going to Alpha. I'm serious. He was going to Alpha at his church. I think his wife was dragging him there on Wednesday nights to Alpha. I don't know. I'm making that up because I'm not quite sure, but I'm not going to say that. But he was going to Alpha. That's what he was hearing. Because what does it do? It presents the truth of the Christian worldview. It presents the truth of the power of God, and it cannot be shaken. It cannot be dimmed. The light cannot be covered up. Light shines in the darkness, and you cannot overcome it. The darkness has not overcome it, will not overcome it. And I'm here to tell you today, whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever it is that you feel is your mountain, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but you haven't heard it from me, and you haven't heard it with the testimony I just gave you. See, this is happening all around you. Every minute of every day, God is working. Whether you tune into him or not, he is there.